Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Your Health in Your Hands. I'm Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation. Now, as you know, we are deeply, deeply interested in the brain, not just of children, but also of adults as well. And being from Africa, I've said this over and over again, that we do tend to have problems. We do tend to have some what's the word now? Shall we say deficiencies that make us more prone to certain kinds of brain conditions like strokes, dementias, and so on and so forth. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a talk with Dr. Greg Hall, who we went back and forth about how Black African Americans are more prone to these conditions, heart disease, cancers, brain conditions, and all that. And we discussed why. So if you ever watched that, you need to go back to our websites and check out brainandbodyfoundation.org and watch those videos because it's really, really good stuff. But our main deal is the brain. That's why it's called the Brain and Body Foundation. And there are three things we're interested in. One, how to keep your brain healthy throughout life. Number two, how to recognize problems and do something about them as they occur. Let's say your memory is beginning to fail, or you're beginning to have mood problems or behavioral problems, or whatever, anxiety, depression, those things. You need to not take those things for granted. You need to know what to do, and you need to do it right there and then as quickly as possible, ASAP, in other words. Number three, the third thing we're super interested in is when you have these issues, and many of us Africans have these issues like dementia, strokes, actual major neurological problems, and we tend to hide them. And we don't go and see the doctor until it becomes advanced. And that's when we begin to do something. We start running up and down looking for solutions. Even at that stage, we are now beginning to find out that there are things that can be done to improve brain function. So has been a passion of mine. Many times every year, I would go to the US twice a year and seek for breakthroughs in this area. What can we use? What can we use in Nigerians, adults and children as well, that is not only effective, that is not only simple to use, but most importantly, that is safe. In other words, we don't have to worry about toxicity levels or blood levels going too high or causing damage or side effects. What is safe that people can use? So the market woman, Mama Sikira, is what I always refer to. Mama Sikira can feel safe that she's doing something for her child's brain that is improving her child's brain. Same thing as Mama Sikira's mother or grandmother. What can she do if her grandmother is acting or has dementia? What can she do to help her? That's our goal. That's our passion. So that's why it was super, super, super exciting to me when I met our guest today. His name is Dr. John Lewis. Are you there, sir? All right, Dr. John Lewis, thank you so much for being on our show today. Thank you so much. Why don't you go ahead You bet. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone, millions and millions of Nigerians, how great you are.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm happy to give you a little synopsis of who I am. So I've spent many years of my life really looking for ways to help people be healthy. That's really fundamentally who I am and what I do. I studied many things in school, in my professional training, my education in terms of physiology, nutrition, and exercise training. These were things that were inspirational to me as a 20-something-year-old, and now as a 50-something-year-old, 30 years later, it's hard to believe, but I'm still doing the same thing in terms of my interest in finding, just to your point, things that are natural, that are not only natural, but effective, and then also as just as important, safe. And so that's what I've focused on in my career, both in academics and now in business. I spent close to 20 years at the University of Miami Medical School as a professor there, conducting clinical trials in all sorts of different things. And unfortunately for me, the funding really always dictated kind of what I could do. You know, it's like running research is expensive. It's not cheap. And you have to have a budget to be able to do that. The university will support you in some respects, but the university still expects you to bring in money to be able to do your research. So you're really kind of, even though you're a scientist, an academic, but on the other hand, you're you're kind of an entrepreneur and a marketer and a businessman and a salesman as well, because you have to be able to convince other people who have money to give you some of that money to be able to do your research.
Right.
And so that's a very important distinction that I think, I don't know, so much about the experience worldwide, but I can tell you in the United States or in Nigeria, other countries around the world, I can't speak to that experience of, how it works there, but I can tell you in the United States, you have to be a good fundraiser along with being a good scientist to be able to advance your career.
You have to be a salesman, in other words.
Exactly, you really do. And it's not being a salesman like, you and I having a conversation. It's being a salesman with your pen or your keyboard. You have to be able to draft a very compelling and convincing document that you then send off. I always call it a black hole, because you just, you send this proposal into this system where you don't really know these people that's going to read it, and you don't know, maybe they're having a bad day. They're angry at their wife, or their kid or their husband or whoever, and they're reading this proposal from this guy, John Lewis at the University of Miami. Who is this guy, and why is he asking us for, $500,000? So, to me, it's like a big mystery of how a lot of these funding agencies fund research. But anyway, after about 20 years of all of that, I left academics full-time about 6 years ago, and I've been in business for myself since that time. And the work that I've been doing related to your work and those, I'm sure the interest of many of your viewers is related to, as you pointed out, brain health. And so a lot of the clinical research that I conducted was very specific to looking at nutritional interventions and how that would potentially improve someone's cognition. I was a professor of the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences for close to 20 years full-time. I'm still a voluntary associate professor. I resigned full-time back in 2017 in May to leave academics and go into business, but I do still maintain my academic affiliation because it's nice to have, people respect that level of relationship to a University of Miami. I mean, it's not Yale or Harvard or Stanford or Duke, but it is a fairly well-recognized university, especially in Latin America. We have a lot of relationships with other universities, Miami being sort of the gateway to Latin America, if you will, for the United States.
Right.
But you may wonder why a physiologist was in the Department of Psychiatry. That's always something that, well, maybe not always, but sometimes people say, well, how did a physiologist end up in the Department of Psychiatry? And that was simply due to when I was a graduate student at the University of Miami, my assistantship in my department in the School of Education did not cover me for the summers. And so obviously I still had to have, pay for my rent and my food and all my other life's expenses. And I ended up finding a job as a research assistant with a psychologist at the medical school in the Department of Psychiatry. And so I just created sort of a path or a connection there in the department, and I was able to meet the chairman and created really a long line of research there with my colleagues in the department. And so I was able to combine my own interests in nutrition and dietary supplementation and exercise with some of the other work that was being done in terms of, cognition, mood disorder, anything related to mental health. Of course, there were lots of people, lots of experts, either psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, et cetera, who I could rely on for that level of expertise for things that would be related to, the brain or the mind.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Ajibade. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to see more videos, please click on the subscribe button below. And if you want to be notified of when we upload other videos, please click on the bell button so that you can be notified. God bless. Take care. Bye.